Hey everyone, I bet you're wondering what's up with the Indian market lately.
Yeah.
What with all the news coming out?
Right.
So today we're doing a deep dive
Okay.
into some pretty interesting signals coming out of the markets.
Interesting. How?
Well, on the one hand, you have this dip in GDP growth,
Yeah.
but on the other, you have all this optimism
Uh-huh.
and investor interest.
Makes you wonder
Yeah, it does.
what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But of course,
Of course.
quick reminder, this is just for informational purposes, not financial advice.
Always got to say that.
Yep. Always do your own research and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Okay.
India's Q2 GDP growth has slowed to 5.4%,
5.4%.
which is the lowest it's been in like 2 years.
Wow.
And it's a noticeable drop from 8.1% last year.
Yeah, that's significant.
Initially, it spooked some investors,
I bet.
but then things took a kind of interesting turn.
Oh, how so?
Well, despite that GDP news,
Uh-huh.
the Sensex and Nifty both bounced back. Yeah. And they ended the day with gains.
That is interesting.
So maybe investors are looking past the short-term numbers
Maybe.
and betting on a strong recovery in private consumption.
Could be.
What do you think?
Well, 5.4% definitely represents a slowdown,
It does.
especially compared to how India has been performing.
Right.
But you have to think about the global economic context.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
A lot of major economies are facing challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
So India's growth, while moderated, is still pretty robust
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
compared to a lot of other countries.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And there are some signs of a private consumption recovery,
Yeah, there are.
which is like a key driver for the Indian
It's a
economy.
huge driver.
And some experts think this recovery is gaining momentum,
Interesting.
which could be fueling that investor confidence.
It all makes sense when you put it all together.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And the articles also pointed out
Mm-hmm.
that cement and realty
Oh, yeah.
were leading those gains. Makes you wonder why those sectors are attracting attention.
It does, doesn't it?
So what do you think?
Well, if you think about it, cement and realty are both really tied to economic growth
They are?
and infrastructure.
That's true.
So if the government is spending more on infrastructure,
Right.
that could be boosting investor sentiment
Makes sense.
for those sectors specifically.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a ripple effect.
Cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of investor sentiment,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of IPO activity lately.
Like what?
Well, we've got Abha Power and Steel going public,
Okay.
Ganesh Infraworld,
Uh-huh.
Suraksha Diagnostics,
Wow.
and even India's first SM REIT.
Whoa, that's a lot.
I know, right?
A lot to unpack.
That's for sure.
And that REIT is pretty noteworthy.
For sure.
It seems like investors are really interested in real estate.
Yeah, definitely.
Sophisticated real estate investments in India
Yeah.
could be a whole new avenue for people.
Yeah. So can you remind us what a REIT is again?
Right.
Thanks.
A REIT is a real estate investment trust.
Got it.
And it's basically a company that owns or operates or finances income-generating real estate.
Okay.
So you're investing in real estate without having to buy property directly.
So you're buying shares of the company that
Exactly.
manages all the properties.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
So all this IPO action,
Yeah.
especially that REIT,
Uh-huh.
seems like a big vote of confidence
It's definitely positive.
from investors.
Yeah, for sure.
When companies go public,
Right.
they usually want to raise capital to grow,
Right.
which means they're optimistic about the future.
Yeah, you're right.
And when investors are willing to put money in,
Yeah.
especially now with all this economic uncertainty, it does suggest some confidence.
Definitely.
Oh, we can't forget about the FPIs.
The FPIs, right?
So for those who don't know,
Yeah, good point.
what are FPIs?
Cool. FPIs are foreign portfolio investors,
Okay.
and they're basically entities outside of India that invest in Indian securities,
Got it.
and they're a big deal in the market.
Right.
They've been selling off Indian stocks.
They have.
Yeah, in recent months,
Huh.
which has led to some volatility.
I bet.
But that selling has slowed down in November.
Interesting.
Yeah, it could be a turning point.
So maybe they're feeling more bullish on India again.
Could be.
We did see some interesting stock recommendations from analysts.
Like what?
Biocon and Syngene International
Okay.
were mentioned as potentially good picks.
Interesting.
Now, of course, you should never blindly follow stock tips,
Never.
no matter how good they sound.
Right.
But these are good examples
Oh,
of what to think about when you're looking at a stock.
like what kinds of things?
Well, both of these companies have high returns on equity
Okay.
and capital employed.
I see.
which makes them stand out.
See, for those who don't speak finance,
Haha, good point.
what does that mean exactly?
So return on equity, or ROE, tells you how efficiently a company is using its shareholders' money
Okay.
to generate profits.
Got it.
So high ROE usually means
Yeah.
the company is reinvesting its earnings well,
Okay.
and then high returns on capital employed, or ROCE,
Mm-hmm.
shows how well the company is using all its capital
Right.
to make profits.
Got it.
These are key indicators
Yeah.
of a company's financial health and profitability.
Uh-huh.
And you can find this info
Yeah.
in the company's financial statements,
Makes sense.
which are public.
Right.
So dig a little deeper.
Okay.
Look beyond the hype
Good advice.
and look at those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of mixed signals,
Yeah. What else?
there's Suzlon Energy.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
Some analysts are super bullish on it,
Interesting.
but others are saying be careful.
Huh. A real tug of war.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It really shows you how important it is to think critically
Yeah,
when you're investing.
for sure.
You can't just take recommendations at face value.
Whether they're good or bad,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
got to do your research,
Exactly.
make your own decisions
Right.
based on your own goals.
And your risk tolerance.
Yeah, totally.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Diversify.
It's like that old saying.
It is.
Speaking of uncertainty,
Yeah.
it reminds me of this company
Okay.
called Dr. Reddy's Laboratories.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of them.
Back in the 80s, they were pretty small,
Uh-huh.
kind of unknown
Okay.
in the Indian pharmaceutical market.
Interesting.
But they had this vision
But what?
to make high-quality generic drugs
Oh, wow.
accessible to everyone.
That's a great vision.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, they faced a lot of challenges.
Like what?
Regulatory hurdles,
Yeah. That's going to be tough.
intense competition,
Of course.
but they kept going.
They persevered.
Yeah.
Good for them.
They adapted and changed their strategies.
Smart.
And now they're a global giant.
Wow. What a story.
I know, right? Known for their affordable medications.
That's amazing.
It's really inspiring.
It is.
Shows how Indian companies can compete globally.
Yeah, totally.
Makes you wonder what other companies are out there.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be discovered. But before we get too carried away,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
any practical tips for our listeners
Sure.
who are trying to navigate these markets?
Here's one.
Okay, I'm listening.
When you're analyzing a company,
Uh-huh.
don't just focus on their profits.
Okay.
Look at their debt, too.
Debt. Okay.
Yeah, a company with a lot of debt
Right.
could be in trouble if the economy takes a hit.
Even if their profits look good.
Exactly.
So where can you find that info?
You can find it in their financial statements,
Okay.
which are usually public.
Got it. That's a great tip.
Thanks.
It's easy to just focus on the potential profits,
It is.
but you got to understand the debt too
Absolutely.
to make good decisions.
For sure.
And it all comes back to our main theme,
What's that?
navigating this economic uncertainty.
Right.
It's a puzzle, isn't it?
It really is.
We have this slowdown,
Yeah.
but the markets seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, they're kind of shrugging it off.
Yeah.
Even showing some strong activity.
It's wild.
It is.
So what do you think is going on?
Well, maybe investors are thinking long-term,
Okay.
looking past the GDP dip
Right.
and focusing on India's potential.
India's potential for growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
India has a lot going for it.
It does.
Young and growing population,
Mm-hmm.
a rising middle class.
Yeah, with more spending power.
Exactly.
And the government is pushing for reforms.
And development,
Yeah.
all of that could lead to big growth.
In the future.
Exactly.
And there will always be ups and downs.
Always.
But those are some strong fundamentals
They are.
combined with all the energy in India.
The entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly.
It seems like India's story is far from over.
So what does this all mean for our listeners?
It means stay informed,
Okay.
be adaptable, and don't lose sight of your goals.
Your financial goals.
Right.
Keep an eye on the economic indicators
Like GDP and inflation,
and pay attention to global trends.
and how they might affect India,
Yeah.
both good and bad.
And most importantly,
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
and challenge assumptions.
Yeah,
The world of finance can be intimidating.
it can be.
But if you're curious and willing to learn,
Uh-huh.
you can do it.
You can,
Knowledge is power.
especially with your finances.
That's a wrap for our deep dive.
Into the Indian markets.
It's such a dynamic landscape,
It really is.
full of possibilities.
And challenges.
We've seen that even with this slowdown.
Yeah. The GDP slowdown?
There's still so much optimism.
Yeah, and resilience.
It's hard to ignore.
It is.
So here's something to think about.
Okay, what is it?
As you continue on your financial journey,
Uh-huh.
what if India keeps growing,
Yeah.
and overcomes these economic challenges,
Okay.
how will that change the world?
Interesting question.
What role will India play in the future of finance?
That's a big one.
It is.
Keep exploring and learning.
You might find the answers.
You never know.
That's it for today.
See you next time.
Stay curious, everyone.